Hi everyone, welcome to Way to Programming. Today we are going to talk about another concept in callbacks, callback patterns and design patterns. Basically, we'll be talking about callback patterns, different patterns using callbacks and how they can be used in software design. Okay, and I've already created I think many videos on callbacks. So callbacks, they are fundamental, they are very important in programming, specifically in Python programming. And callback again is a function that is passed as an argument to another function. And if you want to dive deep, you can check that video that I've created on callbacks. And I understand, like, when suppose you are ordering a meal from a restaurant, right? So you order in, you will place the order and provide your phone number. And when your meal is ready, the restaurant calls you back, right? So that's a callback in the real world, right? In programming world, when we are talking about Python programming, it looks like passing a function as an argument to another function, right? Again, I'm not going to focus on that for this particular, this specific lecture. If you want to understand what a callback is, how it works, go back to that video that I created long back. And I have actually created another video where we talk about callbacks in asynchronous synchronous programming. So I'll give you an overview when it comes to callbacks role in asynchronous programming. Try to understand that when we talk about callbacks in asynchronous programming, things happen out of order, and we need to handle events or data once they are available. And again, to understand more on this subject, try to go back to that specific video where I'm talking about async IO and the use of callbacks, right? Think of making an asynchronous API request, right? How do you do that? You send the request, but you don't know when the response will arrive, right? So you don't want to block your program, so you provide a callback to be executed when the response is ready, right? So let me give you an example for the same, and I'm gonna actually use a file for that. I hope it is visible. Okay, let me adjust the file so that you can see the entire code. All right, so again, if we are talking about asynchronous programming, we have to use async IO, right? And for that, we first have to import async IO, and then we'll create a few definitions. So for example, we have async greeting, where we have name, and so these are the arguments. You can use any argument. Await async IO dot sleep, so you can give any unit. I'm gonna give 2, and then we are going to again use callback, and okay, let's say I want to print maybe some name, right, that I will get. Fine. Okay, and then I can create another callback function, right? And I told you, if you remember, what did I tell you? What is a callback? It's like a function is passed as an argument to another function, right? So in this case, the function is, because we're talking about async IO, in this case, function is greeting, right? So it's a function that we created. So we are passing this function as an argument to another function. Okay. So callback function, and then here we have greeting, and then we can print greeting, right? Okay, async IO dot run. Now we need to run it again. If you still don't understand how we are doing it, you can go back to that video where I'm explaining the use of asynchronous programming. So asyncio.run, I'm gonna run this function, right? And so here I need to pass a name. So maybe let's say I'll pass John, right? And then callback function. How many are there? Yeah, it's done. Okay, so I'm gonna save it, and so let's say prog 1. Okay, hello John, right? So it works. And that's one way of using it, right? And then we also talked about callback hell and callback pyramids. Callbacks try to understand these are powerful. They can lead to a messy code structure because of the power they have, right? And if the structure is messy, it can lead to callback hell, or sometimes we call them callback pyramids, right? So that's another design pattern. And this happens when you nest callbacks inside callbacks. So there are nested callbacks. So it makes your code really hard to read and maintain. Okay. It also happens when there are multiple asynchronous operations, right? I've already created another video on callback hell, so I would ask you to go back to that video and just check one more time how to deal with callback hell. And since we're talking about nested functions, I have explained in that video how sometimes callbacks are nested, and how can we actually decide to uh, remove that thing, right? Like the callback hell thing. And now let's see how how these callbacks fit into different design patterns, right? Because they are not just for handling asynchronous operations, or using in nested functions. They play a significant role in design patterns, right? And the mostly design patterns that we use are like observer pattern and many other patterns, but let's focus on observer pattern for this video lecture. So observer pattern is used when observer pattern usually allows an object to notify its observer when its state changes. So observer is the dependent. So whenever the state changes, dependent will know that the state has changed, and because it depends on the object, it will also change, right? So callbacks can be used to notify observers of state changes, right? And for that, we need to work with classes. Now, if you are new to classes, again, go back to previous videos, because I've already created video on classes as well. I'm just going to create a simple program here. So let's say I have a class and I'm going to name it subject. Okay. And in this class, I'm going to, have a few functions and data members. Okay, let me write it like this. Right. So let's say there is a list of observers that I'm having. And then, okay, yeah, inside the class only, I'm gonna create another function, register observer. So here also we have this thing, and again I'm gonna use, so this will help you understand notify underscore observers. Let me write the entire code first, otherwise I get confused, and then I will let you know how we are observers data. And then let's say we have another class, and I'm gonna name it observer, and then we have few more functions. Okay, this is already there, and maybe here I can just print an output, received data, and we are receiving some data here, right? So I can just print it like that. And okay, so once the classes have been created, now we need to create some objects. So first I'm going to create object for subject, then observer1 will be observer, observer2 will be this observer, subject dot register observer 1, and subject dot register observer. This is for observer 2, and then data to notify. So this is a simple variable that I'm using, right? Subject dot notify underscore observers. If you want, you can use simple variables too, right? I use these kind of variables because I'm used to them now, and it also makes me understand the code in a better way. So I prefer this Python code is actually it is defining, it defines a simple implementation of observer design pattern, right? Observer design pattern, if you don't know about it, it is a behavioral design pattern that allows an object to maintain a list of its observers. Again, who are observers? These are the dependents, right? And then notify them of any changes without knowing any details about the observers, right? So let me help you understand. So let me break down this code step by step. First, we have subject class, right? And this class represents the subject that will be observed, okay? And there are a few methods used in this subject. The first one is init method. I have explained this method also in one of the previous videos, so please check that one if you are new to this. So in itself, this is actually a constructor, and it initializes an empty list, right? And name of the list is this one, right? So it will be used to store observer objects, right? Then another method that we are defining, so method or function, right? I'm gonna use it interchangeably, both like it means the same, right? So this method, register underscore observer, this method allows you to add an observer to the list of observers, right? And how do we do that? Using append function or append method, fine. And then we have notify observers. So this method is actually responsible for notifying all registered observers with some data, right? So how does it do that? It rates through the list of observers, right? Underscore observers, and then it will call the update, right? So it will call some update method on each observer, passing the data as an argument, right? So data is being passed as an argument, fine. And then we have another class, observer. This class represents the observer, which is an object that receives updates from the subject, right? So this is the subject, and then observer is uh, receiving the updates from the subject, right? And it only has one method for that, update method, right? This method is called by the subject here, right? And subject will actually call this method when it wants to notify the observer about change, right? And in this specific code, it simply prints a message indicating that, it has received some data. Okay. Then because we are talking about classes, so we will eventually have, objects and instances. So when we have to create an instance of a class, this is how we create it, right? So this statement, it creates an instance of the subject class, which will be observed by one or more observers, right? So for the subject class, we are creating this instance subject. Observer 1 is the instance, so it is the instance or object, right? So this object belongs to observer class, and then for observer class, we are actually creating two objects, right? After that, we are going to register these observers. Fine. So this first statement, it registers observer 1 with subject, right? Now, observer 1 is in the list of observers for the subject, right? And for the second line, for the second statement, uh, observer 2 is being registered with the subject. Okay. Once they have been registered, we need to notify observers, and for that, this statement is used, right? So new data available, this statement, this statement is actually used to set the data that will be sent to the observer, right? And similarly, for the second line, this one, this is actually like it will call the notify underscore observers method on the subject. So it in turn iterates through its list of observers, and it calls the update method on each observer, passing the data underscore this one data underscore to underscore notify as an argument, right? So as a result, both observer 1 and observer 2, they print a message indicating that they received the data, right? This code is used to demonstrate the observer pattern. Okay, I'm using it to demonstrate the observer pattern, right? Where a subject maintains a list of observers and notifies them of changes. And in this specific example, observers simply print the received data. But in real applications, observers can perform, various actions in response to notifications from the subjects, right? So this pattern is also used, this pattern is also created using callbacks. Okay, and then there are when you are working with various design patterns, there are certain best practices we've also talked about in one of the previous videos. So for example, you should handle errors and exceptions, right? You should not just leave them there. You should also try to avoid callback help, and that can be done if you structure your code logically. You should also be, more try to use very meaningful names for your callback functions, and also, I think these three are fine, right? And one more thing, callbacks are important, right? And they can be used for, pattern generation and all of that. But there are also alternatives, right? So for example, async await. There are many event-driven architectures, right? They can be used for specific use cases, and they can be used as alternatives to callbacks, right? And they can also make your code, more readable. Fine. So I just wanted to give you this one example, right? Because I received a request from one of the students how we can use callbacks in observer pattern, and then I thought that instead of just creating that one specific video, I should just talk about all the patterns that can be used with callbacks. So that is it. Thank you for joining me in this video lecture. If you found it helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have any doubt, feel free to ask in the comments, or like you can always send me an email. I'll see you next time with another video lecture. Till then, take care.